Welcome to the Untold Story podcast, where we dive deep into a professional's journey, covering every detail whilst giving a platform and a voice as everyone has an untold story. Today we have Harvey Walker, a professional footballer at Aldershot Town in the National League. Last season for Aldershot under-23s, Harvey racked up a total of 44 goal contributions in 25 games, 28 goals and 16 assists. The stats truly speak for themselves. Welcome, Harvey. A pleasure to have you
It's a
on,
big
mate.
intro. No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to get on the podcast. You're my first guest. I think we should just start by talking about how this season has been so far and where you've been playing.
Okay. Do you know what? Obviously, yeah, this season's probably been the most difficult of my career from physical perspective and a mental perspective, obviously, because of the injury.
Yeah,
And coming back from a long-term injury, I mean, you know how it is. It's difficult. And yeah, I'd say like the last few weeks, sort of just feeling like myself again, if that makes sense. Because obviously, I haven't played for a year, and you don't actually realise like, how long of a time that is until you step onto the football pitch for the first time. So yeah, I feel like recent weeks I'm finally starting to feel like the player I was before the injury again. And yeah, it's been a difficult season, but I can't say that I haven't learned more than I've ever learned in my life this season. So yeah, it's been rewarding, but been difficult as well.
yeah, 100%. It's good to hear that you're getting your confidence back and playing like you used to. And you just mentioned the injury that you had, a big injury. We'll get into that later in more detail. But I just want to rewind and roll back the years and start by talking about where did your career actually start?
Do you know what? I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like most people's journey into football would sort of be like the academy route, but
Yeah,
I sort of like grew up like my introduction into football was sort of like just getting on the phone to my mates and saying like, where can we go and play football today? Like I was going to cages, going to parks, just having a kick around with my mates. And honestly, I think like cage football taught me so much. The way I play, like I'm so direct, I'm skillful, I'm like tricky, like I like to turn with the ball, just like express myself basically. And like I don't know necessarily if I would have got all of that from the academy route, but I definitely learned like in the cages, especially playing with like the older boys. Like if you're slow on the ball, you're getting lifted, and like you know how it is.
yeah,
Yeah. So I learned, yeah, just playing my football in the cages, mate.
yeah. That's really good to hear. As there's some like professionals like the Jadon Sanchos,
Yeah.
the people that were born and raised in London mainly. So how important do you think that, like growing up, playing in the cage, like you said, playing against olders? Do you think that there's lessons that you learn there that you can't learn elsewhere?
100%, especially like playing with older boys. Like in the academy route, like it's so difficult to play with older players, and like the boys that I'm playing with, like they're all at clubs and they're like 2 3 years older than me. So like for my development, that was amazing, and you couldn't get that anywhere else than in the cages I was going to play in. And like there was some good players there, man. Like players that are doing like good things nowadays as well. So yeah, it was brilliant for my development.
Yeah, it's really good to hear. And do you still play in the cages sometimes?
Not as much as I'd like to be fair, because
Yeah,
obviously a lot's happened. But yeah, when I'm starting to feel like 101% again, then maybe I might go
yeah.
back.
Might go back and have a
Yeah.
go. So I did some research, and before you signed pro at Aldershot, you spent some time at the academy. Would you like to talk about your academy journey and if you played any big clubs?
Yeah, of course. So how I actually got into Aldershot was really weird. You know what? I was playing football at my sixth form, and like obviously I finished school, did my A levels and whatnot, and I sort of like didn't like. I obviously knew I wanted to play football. I wanted to get into professional football, but I didn't really have anything at the time that was like concrete. Obviously, I had like clubs sniffing around here and there, but like yeah. So what I ended up doing is I made a like football CV basically of everything that I'd done in my life, like football wise, everything I'd achieved like at school, playing like Sunday league and stuff like that. And I sent it off to a few clubs, and like one of them happened to be Aldershot. And the academy manager at the time, who's now the first team gaffer, Ross McNeely, he sent me an email back, invited me for a trial, and then yeah, the rest is history.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's good. Did you end up playing in like the FA Youth Cup
Nah,
competitions?
never, because
No.
I was the age group above that. So I
Yeah.
came as a first year. Yeah, what would be a first year pro basically. I
Oh,
came.
right.
So yeah, I was an under 19 basically. So I just missed out on that. But yeah, it would have been good to play in, but I got a lot out of the year I was there. So yeah, I enjoyed my time in the academy. It was great.
And in the intro, we talked about the stats, your under 23 stats in that season. That I'm guessing that's the season that you got offered a pro.
Yeah, so yeah, I got offered a pro probably maybe like we started talking about stuff like to do with the pro maybe 8-9 months into the season, and yeah, at the end of the season, obviously it was all sorted. But yeah,
And the first team manager at the time, I'm guessing, was Danny Searle.
yeah.
And how important do you think it is for, as a young player, for managers to give opportunities to young players um, to give out these pro contracts to the players that are performing in the
Yeah.
youth teams?
So important, because the thing I always say with young players, you don't know what you've got until you give them the opportunity. And if you don't give them the opportunity, how are they meant to show you what they can do? And like with me, the thing with Aldershot is I have to give credit to the club. There was a lot of opportunities for young players. Like they signed me, Tommy Willard, who's still there now and brilliant footballer, Ellis Watts, Alfie Saunders, and another boy called George Sheridan, who are all really, really good players. So they get 5 of us pros, which is quite rare at a football club at that level, especially. So I can't knock the club for like what they did with the young players. They were brilliant.
Yeah, that's really good. And the first season, once you signed your pro, did you transition straight into the first team, or did you spend some time in the reserves still?
Nah, straight away I was straight in with the first team, training every day. Because obviously I came in at the start of pre-season, so it was like straight away in with the running, in with the boys, and yeah, straight away training, playing pre-season games, and sort of like building up, trying to make a name for yourself and get yourself in the team. So yeah.
And what would you say? How would you describe the a pre-season camp as a pro? What does it hold?
A lot of running,
A lot of
a
running.
lot of discipline, because I say the sessions are harder, they're more physically intense, so you have to manage what you do away from football, because obviously I say it's the first time in my life when I went up to the first team I actually realised like what you do away from the pitch is so important to like how you perform on it. So you have to manage your body away from the pitch, and you just have to be a lot more switched on, because the players, like as much as they're good technically, like they're just so like intelligent and they do everything quicker because their knowledge of the game, obviously they're older, they've done more, they've played how many games at that level, they just know football. So obviously I'm a good player, I'm technically a good player, but I don't necessarily have that experience, so I have to make sure that everything I do is as perfect as it can be to give myself the chance to be better than these players and then get in the team. So you just learn the professional side of the game.
100%, 100%. How do you think the transition is? Do you think it's a big jump from the academy to the first team, or is it kind of like you kind of just get used to it slowly?
It is a big jump, because I'd say the demands are more. Like in the academy, like you could have 4 chances in a game. If you miss 3 and you score 1, it's cool. In a first team environment, you can't do like the margin for error is just so small. And I think that's the thing. When I went into the first team in pre-season, I was really focusing on, as much as I did score so many goals in the academy, there were games where like I'd come out with 2 goals, but could have scored 3, could have scored 4. So it was really like going into detail, looking at my end product, making sure that I was hitting the back of the net 70, 80, 90% of the time, and just really focusing on being clinical in the final third. So yeah.
100%. And as a young player walking into a changing room for the first time with grown men, grown footballers, how is it like? What do you advise for young players that are following in your footsteps when they're going into a changing room like that?
So obviously, because you're in with men for the first time, it's naturally going to be intimidating. Like I won't lie and say like it was easy, because it wasn't. Like it's an intimidating place to be, a football changing room, especially when you're a baby compared to most of the players that are in there. But I'd say like look around the room, look at the players that you really rate, look at what they do, and look at the pros that you sort of like want to be like in terms of like their personality, the way they carry themselves, and start to just like pick little things off them. Like what do they do before training? How are they outside the training ground? How do they just carry themselves like around the training ground, and take little details that you see in their lives and try and implement them in yours. So I think like a football changing room, when you're amongst older lads, it's so good for your development.
I think that's very good advice actually. And talking about looking at the older players, trying to learn things from them. Were there any players specifically that maybe gave you direction, helped you,
Yeah.
supported you?
So I'd say in my first year, I say Lewis Kinsella, who was club captain at the time, was just really good in terms of like he was sort of one that would like always talk to you, give you confidence, like remind you what you're good at. Like say, like for me, like I'm quick, so he was always like, whenever I got the ball, like you're so quick, like do this, do that. And another one, Cody Lyons Foster as well. In my first year, he'd always be like, get on the ball as much as you can, do this, do that. Yeah, he was. They were really good, to be fair. And even Kins, when I got injured, was brilliant for like connecting me with the people that I did my rehab as well. So that was another thing that he didn't have to do, but he went out of his way and did it. So yeah.
Yeah. And in your first season as a pro, what opportunities did you get to play like match days? Did you play any National League
So,
games?
unfortunately, not, because I played virtually the whole of pre-season, probably about 3 quarters of pre-season. Obviously, got the injury, but like I played pretty much every single pre-season game. Was doing really, really well. Scored a couple of goals as well. So, yeah, it's disappointing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of lessons to learn out of everything, and everything happens for a reason. Let's get into the injury then. If you want to just talk about what injury did happen to you.
Yeah. So I've had a second ACL. So I had my first one at 15, and then I had this one, obviously, not last preseason, the preseason before, and I've been rehabbing it ever since. Yeah.
And the ACL injury is it's on the knee, and it takes anywhere between as early as 6 months, and then some people up to 2 years. And for you, how long did it take to come back?
So the first time, literally, I'd say I was back playing probably in about 6 months and had no issues whatsoever. Played for about 3 or 4 years straight, no problems. And this time, I'll admit it's been a bit more difficult, like in terms of, I wouldn't even say from a physical perspective, but like getting my mind right again, because where I was so just like direct and everything I did was so automatic. Now I'm back playing, it's almost like I'm trying to get myself out of the mindset where I think about what I do before I do it. So it's almost working on your mind being automatic again. But obviously that comes with not playing football for a long time. So this time I was back in probably about 12, 13 months, and obviously I'm now 16 months post-op and back playing. So
Yeah, it's good to see you back playing. So pre-season, you're sharp with the first team, and then all of a sudden now you've got a big injury. How do you go about that?
it's difficult, to be fair, and I can't lie and say that I was fine, because there was a period of time where I wasn't fine. I'm just going to be completely honest. Like, I think it's one of those things where you have to really like lean on the people around you, like your family, your friends. Like my family and friends were brilliant for me when I got injured, because obviously football's my life. Football's what I want to do. Football's what I saw myself doing. Like I would have played a lot of games that year. That's just a fact. And to sort of have that taken away from you when you don't see it, it sort of like comes blindsided, and B, you don't deserve it, because at the end of the day, you're playing football. You're playing football because you enjoy football, and you're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything any different to the other 21 players on the pitch that you're going to play against, and you pick up a bad injury. And yeah, it's hard, but I say you just got to get over. You just got to get over it and sort of just like get on with the rehab. Yeah.
So the first initial stage, you after you've had the injury, up until surgery. What's going on? What sort of stuff are you doing?
So you've got to like build the muscle around the leg. Obviously, you've done your ACL, but before the surgery, it's so important to sort of like make sure you're in the best physical shape possible, because it increases your chances of having like a good operation and then a good rehab phase. So I was sort of building the muscle around the quad, the hamstrings as much as I could, obviously within the reason, because I didn't have an ACL in my knee. But yeah, just doing as much as I could in the gym, sort of just building the muscle around the leg.
Yeah, and you've had surgery. After surgery, it's some people take longer than others, but up until the walking phase, what's sort of going on? What sort of exercises are happening, and what's going through you
Yeah.
mentally?
Oh, you're gonna know what it's like that. After you wake up from surgery, like those few days after, probably the most brutal experience I've ever had in my life in terms of pain. Like just so much pain. You like even like putting like the edge of your foot on the ground, you'll notice like it's so painful. But once you get past that pain barrier and you're sort of like you're on crutches, and then you slowly progress to like getting off like crutches, like getting back walking. And I think yeah, the things that I'd be doing in that time period. So, well, I was working on getting the extension back in the knee, obviously hopping on the game ready to get the swelling down, and just making sure everything that I was putting in my body, my sleep, just everything was just as good as I could possibly make it.
Yeah, and after surgery on the first day, did they try get you up and walk?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it didn't work.
it's difficult,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
didn't
Yeah.
work.
Speaking from experience myself, it's like you get up, dizzy,
Yeah,
not you're not there, you know.
horrible. Honestly, it's something that I just any footballer, I really hope you don't have to go through it, because
Yeah.
it's a brutal experience.
Yeah, and some from the outside, it looks like when you're on crutches, it looks like, oh, he's on crutches, he's walking, but it's not like that. Your leg, it just doesn't feel the same. It feels
100%.
like
Yeah.
there's no muscle in it. And talk to me about the muscle, how the leg becomes so skinny. What was that like? Was it a shock?
It's a shock, because you're used to like having, obviously where you're playing regularly, your quads are like your quads are big, and it's like you look at your left, which is the one I didn't do, and you're like, everything looks fine. You're looking at your right, it's like half the size.
Yeah.
So you realise that you've got a job to do in terms of building muscle. But yeah, you just got to get over it and just get into the rehab phase as quickly as possible.
During the rehab, you have obviously different stages, and depending on what physio you're with, you have different checkpoints that you need to hit. After you've hit the first checkpoint and the second checkpoint, how is it changing in the head? How are you mentally? Like, you get more encouraged?
You get more confident, you get more encouraged. Like I say with an ACL, it's so difficult because you have days where you feel like, honestly, you're on top of the world and you feel like, oh, I could be back playing tomorrow. And then the next day, you don't do anything, but just it's almost like you're like back to square one again sometimes. Like there's difficult days and there's really, really good days. And I think you just have to extract the positive out of every single situation when you're going into rehab, and like take your small victories, because even like stuff like, to any normal like footballer, any normal athlete, like doing something like a single leg box jump, for example, like it's nothing. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. But like when you're going through the rehab phase, like a single leg box jump, like is a big thing to tick off. Like the plyo stuff, for example, are really big things to tick off. So it's like when you get to those stages and you've done them, you have to really pat yourself on the back, because a lot of people struggle to get there.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm 7 months post surgery myself with the same injury, and I'm still not doing single leg box jumps. I've only been doing for the last 2 weeks the double leg. And it is very, from the outside, looks like you're fine walking, doing gym, but it is difficult as a person going through the ACL injury. And for people that haven't gone through it, we've experienced it ourselves, but knee bending, that when you get, after you've had surgery, your leg isn't fully straight, but you can't bend it as well. And that's a very big mental thing, getting your full range of motion back, isn't it?
100%. It's horrible, and it never feels good doing it, to be fair. But it's just one of those things where you just have to do it. Like I say with an ACL injury, like you don't have a choice. You have to do these brutal things. Otherwise, the reality is you're not going to get back playing, and if you do, you're not going to be the same player. So you just have to do it.
So let's fast forward now. You're coming to the later stages of your rehab, almost back to, maybe you're training by yourself, almost back with the team. What's sort of going on with the club? Are they encouraging you? Are they supporting you, giving you sessions?
Yeah, so when I was coming back, my manager at the time was Mark Mosley, and the club, in terms of like results, were going through a difficult period. So it was sort of like, it was a period where we didn't really know what was happening, but I was back obviously rehabbing on my own with the physio, Adam McEwen at Aldershot. He was brilliant, really, really good with me. And I'm sort of doing my individual pitch work, doing my running, sort of my leaping, bounding stuff, taking contact. And yeah, I'd say that side of things they were really good with, to be fair, yeah.
You're about to start team training, and for the first time you're stepping on the pitch, you're about to do like contact, about to get into challenges. Is there sort of a fear element? Is there nerves?
Yeah, there was nerves, because like at that point when I was coming back into training, it had been 13 months. Like that's a long time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of nerves like going back on, because I got dropped into, like, the first thing I did actually was an 11v11, and I think I came in. I was still on non-contact, but obviously like at that level, like at National League level, like it's fast.
Yeah.
So imagine like coming back into it and you haven't really touched the ball properly in sort of that scenario for 12 months. Like it's quick, but it was one of them ones where like once you're back in it, you're fine. You're completely fine. And I'd say the knee felt strong, so my mind was good. Yeah.
Is it like I'm guessing you had a strong rehab campaign like the previous months, and because you worked so hard, you built like a good solid foundation.
Yeah.
So I feel like the transition was smoother for you.
Literally, that's exactly it. Because with my physios and the people I did my rehab with, they're called Go Perform, a company in Reading. We left no stone unturned. So every little detail of the knee, we made sure that we checked before I went back on the pitch. So in my mind, I could be as confident as possible to say, like, I'm fine, I'm going to be fine. Just play football as if you play football normally. Don't even think about it. And that's exactly what I did.
You mentioned the training company, Go Perform. How important do you think it is to find a good professional place to do your rehab?
Yeah, especially when you have like a big injury like that, you need to have a professional, like a group of professionals really, that know what they're doing, know what they're dealing with. Because obviously, like, there's some physios out there, they just don't have the experience. And I'd say finding Go Perform was like absolutely amazing for me, because I couldn't have been in better hands, to be fair. Like they've dealt with so many players that have had the same thing. Some took longer, Some were like they rehabbed and they were back and playing and it was a breeze. So they've seen all the sides of an ACL injury, for example, and they know what I'm dealing with. They've seen the good days, the bad days 100 times before, and that's exactly what you need. People with experience.
Yeah, I think as the player with the injury, working with someone that has loads of experience, that's worked with other players, I think it gives you that confidence that you're in
Yeah,
like safe hands,
100%.
100%. And so after you've come back to team training, how long or what do you have to do to start playing games again?
So obviously there's like little checkpoints you need to check off in terms of like stuff that you're doing during the session. So it's like you start with little things like if you're doing any technical work, like like the sort of like volley, half volley, like that sort of stuff, like the technical based stuff is sort of the first thing you need to get ticked off, and then you transition into sort of like possessions, like small sided game sort of stuff, and then you try and drop yourself into maybe a non-contact 11v11, and then you put yourself into a contact 11v11, for example, and then once you've sort of ticked off like full session, like maybe probably about a month of like being able to get through training consistently, no issues, no reactions in the knee, no like nothing in your mind that says like I'm not ready. Once you're over like the mental barriers, and I think it's time for you to like get back into games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after you've come back, started team training again, there's still actually quite a long way to go. You still
Yeah.
have to work hard and prepare yourself. And
Yeah.
you start playing games. And talk to me. Do you feel the same again, or does it take time for the knee?
Yeah. I'd say like even coming back to like team training after like rehabbing, I say that's the one thing that players and like staff like they don't really understand is that like okay, I've rehabbed for 12 months and I'm back on the pitch, but like it's gonna take me time to like get back to doing the things I was doing before, and that's sort of the thing that I think I found a bit difficult in terms of like people have the expectations of you when you were completely like fit, you'd play consistently, like you were just like playing like all the time, and they expect you to be exactly like that almost straight away, and it's not realistic. It is going to take time. Well, obviously once you've got through your training sessions, it's sort of like you're playing like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 45, and then building up towards that 90 minutes, and then once you've got the 90 minutes, it's about playing as many games as possible from there.
All right. So after you've made your first appearance, I'm guessing it was like 20 minutes.
Literally 20 minutes at the end of a 23s game. Yeah.
Yeah. So after you've made the first appearance, how many games do you have to play to reach that 90 minutes and be fully back?
I think I did 5. I remember doing 5. So I did the 20, did 30, 45, 60, 75. Yes, I did 5. So just, yeah, you have to build up your minutes. And then, honestly, when you play your first 90, it is the best feeling in the world. It's so good. It feels like everything you've done for the last 12 months is worth it. Like, even if you have a stinker, it doesn't even matter. And to be fair, like, coming back, like, playing the 23s games, I scored a fair few goals, to be fair, coming back. So like I was enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, so especially after coming back from a big long injury, you playing the 23s, getting goals under your belt and minutes. I'm guessing that boosted your confidence,
Yeah.
helped maybe develop more, and really just get into the flow of things again.
Yeah, 100%. Like I remember I scored. I think it was my first goal was in my first 45. I want to say. I remember we played the game on the Saturday, and I went back to training on the Monday. And like me, the week before, in terms of confidence, like what I was doing on the pitch compared to after I'd scored that goal and like had the really good 45 minutes, it was like my mind just switched. And like in terms of confidence, I was like a new human being again, because it's like almost a reminder that like you can still do it, sort of thing, and you need them.
I think confidence is one of the most like key elements throughout the whole rehab. Like from the start to the end, I think if you don't have that confidence, it's kind of difficult to progress. Um, and after you've made the 90 minutes, you start playing 90 minutes. Was you playing regularly, like starting 11 every week?
Yeah, so yeah, I was playing for the 23 still, starting every week, scoring, playing well. So yeah.
So after you've started playing 90 minutes and you're getting games under your belt, what happened after? Did you go on loan? Did you go into the first team?
So that was where sort of like the problem started. So I was having a talk with some people at the club, and obviously they'd come to watch like one or two of like my 23s games where I was sort of playing like 90 minutes. And for example, we played a game against Maidstone, and they didn't have a game on the weekend because it got cancelled. So they played a lot of first teamers in that game against our 23s, and we beat them 5-2. I think I scored once. I might have scored twice, to be fair. I can't remember. And yeah, the first team gaffer was watching that. So we started speaking about me coming back, possibly going on loan, obviously to build myself up, which I was all for, to be fair, because I understand like I haven't played for a year. I can't expect to just be dropped into the starting 11 again because I need to go out there, I need to work, and I need to get myself back to my best. So I was all ready to go on loan, but stuff sort of happened. To be fair, yeah.
As a young player, I'm guessing there's a lot of clubs that maybe from the lower leagues that are interested in you, taking you on loan. Did you, when you came back to football, did you get any like offers from other places?
Yeah, there was a few. To be fair, there was a few good offers that I was actually interested in, but obviously nothing materialised, unfortunately.
And as a young player, how important do you think it is going on loan? Are you in favour of going on loan? Do you think it's vital to get first team
100%.
experience?
I think going on loan for a young player is possibly the best thing you can do for your development, especially because when you're at a certain level, you play a certain type of football, I think, and it's like the prettier side of football. And I think every player has to learn the ugly side of football because you're going to come up against a lot of teams at any level, even some Prem teams to an extent do it, where they will just shell it. And if you've never been put in that experience before, you're not going to know how to deal with it. And I think like the non-league sort of like loan side of the game is really good with helping you deal with like the different perspectives of football and learn more about your position, and just like being in different change rooms is always good as well, and just seeing a different side of the game.
Yeah. So let's come to the present day. Whereabouts are you playing?
Yeah.
What position you playing? What's the stats for like this season?
So I'm on. It's sort of like a dual reg thing with Lewis and Sevenoaks. I'm playing for Sevenoaks at the minute, and we're sort of still, because unfortunately where I was getting myself back to sharpness with Aldershot, obviously I've come out of Aldershot. There's been about a month where I've been sort of like sorting myself out and having to get myself a club again. So it's sort of like I've had to start the process, not all over again, but obviously not playing for a month, you can't then go and pick up from where you left off and play 90 minutes again. So it's sort of been a thing where I've been building up minutes, but like, yeah, the goals are coming. The goals are still coming in, but still in the process of building myself up back to where I was before. But I'd say like the last few weeks, I've really started to feel like I'm starting to see the difference and I'm feeling like myself again. So yeah, I'm in a good place.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And it's coming towards the end of the season. There's not many games left. Do you have any targets to finish the season on? Any specific targets?
To be honest with you, no specifics. Just enjoy my football is the main one. Score as many goals as possible. Help the teams I'm playing for achieve what they want to achieve, which both of them are promotion. So get both teams promoted, do as much as I can. And yeah, just main thing is just enjoy my football because it's been such a long time since I played football competitively. Like even the 23s games, it's not the same like playing for 3 points every week where it actually matters. So it's just like enjoying the whole process of playing for 3 points and playing in front of fans, playing in front of people again. Yeah.
That competitiveness that you get from men's football and the fans that are behind you, I think playing for 3 points that gives you that extra motivation, don't you think?
100%. It's like when you're playing 23s games and it's almost like silence.
Yeah.
Like it's good, but you don't get that extra push, that extra edge from like everything going on around you.
So when the season finishes, tell me what it's like for a professional footballer. What happens? Do you, from the day the season finishes all the way to the off season and then pre-season? What's sort of happening?
So I say like typically for a pro, I say the first thing that a pro would do when the season finishes, probably take a week or two off, go on holiday, enjoy the time with the family, friends, just because obviously the football season is so demanding physically. It's just, I feel like you need to unwind, you need to have a bit of time off just to rest. And when I was younger, didn't necessarily do those things. I was one that season would finish a day later, I'm still training. So I think I've learned from my mistakes because obviously that's maybe played a part into why I've had the injuries that I've had. And yeah, so I say that's the first thing. You start going on holiday, and then it's about when the holiday's done, it's about switching your head back onto football, building yourself back up, getting involved, like training here, training there, and obviously joining back up with your club for pre-season.
And how long is like an off-season camp for a pro?
Typically maybe about a month.
Month, and then it's like a 6-week period of pre-season with the team and getting minutes under your belt again. So what's your plans for next season?
There's a few things in the pipeline, to be fair, at the minute. Yeah, we'll see, but yeah, I can't really say too much.
I think it's mainly just to keep playing, enjoying the game, and then obviously as you came back from a big injury, still just get into that momentum, start developing yourself again. And your targets, do you, at the start of the season, do you set yourself targets for the
Yeah,
season?
always set targets. So I always set my targets like I'll think about like what is a realistic expectation, and I'll always set slightly above.
Yeah.
So I'd always try and push myself, get as much out of myself as possible. And usually, what I found is at the start of the season, I think this is realistic, and then I'll set slightly above, and I find at the end of the season, I've gone even higher than where I thought was unrealistic at the start. And I think it's always good to have something there that just gives you that extra motivation to push you like a target.
I think you just came across a really key point there where you're saying this is realistic and then this is where you set the target.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that shows me that how mentally like you're strong, you're a determined young player. How important do you think it is to be like mentally strong in the professional environment?
100%, because honestly, football, like as much as people from the outside must think like football's life is pretty, like it is the most dog eat dog environment there is. Like even saying this might sound a bit weird, but like some of your teammates, people that you call your friends, like you're competing for the same position at the end of the day. Like even some of your best friends, you're competing amongst each other, and you have to like really be mentally strong, because there's days where like your best friend will be in the team, you'll be out of the team, and you need to, for the dressing room, be as positive as you can possibly be, even though you might not be playing. So I think like mental strength is really important, but I'd also say like putting your ego aside is really, really important for the benefit of everything around you and yourself as well.
Talk about mental strength. Do you think the injury has made you mentally stronger?
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they see like, oh, he's done this, like a footballer's done this, they just think, oh, they've got money, they can go and do rehab at their club. It's easy. It's not easy at all. Like, as much as physically it's hard, like in your mind, you've got so many battles where like, there's a period of time where like with my knee, I don't think there was a minute of the day where I was not thinking about the knee. I was thinking about how could I do this better? How can I get the swelling down? Like you think about it 24/7, because at the end of the day, that is your career. And I think that's something that people don't realize. But at the same time, that develops your mental strength, because anything that I have throughout the rest of my football career, it won't be able to phase me anymore, because I've been through the difficult times at a young age, and I've seen like the really good side of the game, the successes, but I've seen the bad side of the game as well. So I feel like I'm ready for anything now.
So I think with any injury that's maybe 6 months plus, uh, I think you learn a lot about yourself during that period. But I also think it's one of them things that you only realize how bad it is until it's happened to
Yeah.
you. I think before I got injured and before you were injured, maybe you look at some other pro that's maybe had the same injury and you don't think anything of it. But when it happens to you, it's like a shock. It's really quite puts you in a challenging position, challenging space. And like you said, there's days that you just think about the knee constantly. It's like nothing else matters apart from that, because it's your
Yeah.
career. How do I get back fit, strong? And maybe you're on month 2 and you already think about month 9, month 10.
Yeah.
You already think about how can I get back quickly? What's going to happen there? What's my club situation going to be like?
Yeah.
And it is a very tough thing for especially a young player to go through.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, it builds you mentally, and then you get stronger. And now later down in the career, further down, you're gonna be like
Yeah.
unfazed. You're gonna be strong. You're gonna
100%.
persevere, get through anything.
Yeah, you're right. Do you know what I say? One of the hardest things is like having a long-term injury. It's like you get yourself up to a certain level, which is all through your own work, and it's sort of seeing like players that were like not near you almost like surpass you, because obviously they're playing consistently, and there's nothing more that you can do than rehab. And I feel like that's the part that I really found difficult. It's like seeing players that I know, like I'm at a certain level, almost like go past me and not being able to do anything about it. I'd say that's the part that I found really, really difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges that you face with an injury like that. What's the top? If you had to give any advice, what's the top advice you'd give for someone that's going through the same injury?
Don't bottle up your emotions. Speak about them, because it's not like there's a stigma amongst, I think, like men in this generation where they can't speak about the way they're feeling, and that they have to sort of like be a man up, like bottle it up. And I don't think that's the way to be. Honestly, I think that, yeah, at the start of my journey, I was like, sort of like beating myself up a little bit, thinking about could I do this better, could I do this better, and it's like, for example, going and speaking to my mum just about everything I was feeling, like it did me a world of good. And just, yeah, I'd say don't bottle up your emotions. Speak to whether it's family, a friend, even your physio, to be fair. Speak to anyone who'll listen.
Yeah, you need to use the people that are around you, the people that are your support network. You need to kind of use that, because it gets lonely at some points. So I think that's really important. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
5 years, I want to be a Football League player, definitely. I'd say that's the first objective. Maybe not like that's my end objective in 5 years' time, but that's the first thing I want to do, definitely. And then in 5 years' time, really, it's just about playing as high as I can possibly play, getting every inch out of myself as I can possibly get, and giving myself the best career I could possibly have.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see you, my friend,
Thank
because
you, brother.
I'm watching your Instagram all the time, your highlights. You've got a lot of potential.
Cheers,
So
man.
I'm really
Appreciate
excited to see what the future holds. And before we wrap this podcast up, it's a pleasure to have Harvey on, because you're my first person. But I've got a small gift for you, since you're the first person on the podcast. So if you just want to open that up, brother.
Have you tied that? Hold on, got it.
So I know you told me you're a Spurs fan.
Oh boy.
So it was only right for me to get you the
What
Spurs
a guy. What a guy.
home shirt
Thank you,
for
brother.
this
I
season.
appreciate that so much. Even though me and this team, we've got problems at the minute, but thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, going for a difficult period as well.
Bad.
It's like, show it to the camera, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Class, man. Thank you, bro. I
home
appreciate
kit.
that.
Nah, that's
Cheers.
right, brother. I appreciate you taking time out your day and then getting this sorted on such short notice. And you're the first person on here. We'll get this edited up, posted as soon as possible. It's we'll hang out after this as well, get pictures sorted. But thank you for tuning in, listening to the Untold Story podcast. It's going to be out on the Instagram platform and YouTube platform. Got loads of guests coming soon. Stay tuned, and see you in the next one. All right, brother. It's perfect.
It's been a pleasure, bro. Thank you.
Amazing.
I was good.